Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2022 Forum for Excellence, Cultivating Collaboration Through Conversations. This is a recorded session of a previous session that Kathy Kramer and myself, Michelle Lyman, did during the Forum for Excellence in person. The Forum for Excellence is brought to you by the Illinois Community College Board, the Professional Development Network, the ICSPS, and the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center. Today, we'd like to present to you, it's all fun and games until, no, really, it's just all fun and games. I'm Michelle Lyman, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Kathy Kramer. So why games? Games are a great way to get staff, faculty, and students collaborating through conversation. We know that a lot of times people will say, I'm not interested in playing a game, but once they start, it really gets people talking, it breaks down barriers, and also it can be used in the classroom as not just a way to start discussion, but to build comprehension and vocabulary. So when you're using games, you want to make sure that they work for you. So um, we have several topics, change the topics as needed. Use these games in the platform that works best for you. Is it in the office with your staff? Is it in the classroom with clients? Wherever it is, use it to work with you. So the first game that we played when we were at the Forum of Excellence was speed dating. And we had a lot of fun with it in person. We set the tables up similar to the picture here, where people were facing each other. And then we would give one topic to the whole group. They had 2 minutes to discuss the topic, and then one side would move to the right. So each time we had a new topic, they had a new partner to discuss the topic for 2 minutes. If doing this remotely, you can also have a lot of fun. So what we would suggest in this case is that you put learners into breakout rooms, 2 people, 3 if necessary. You send the topic through the chat, and they have 2 minutes to discuss the topic. Then you will stop them. You'll put them into new breakout rooms, new topic through the broadcast, and they will speak with a new partner. So some of the topics that we used with speed dating were technology, and that could be anything from how are you using technology in the classroom? Maybe a student says, hey, I don't know how to use Burlington English. Maybe it's as simple as I want to start a Facebook page for our department, but I don't know how. Or maybe I want to block somebody at work from seeing my Facebook page. How do I do that? So these questions, these topics can cover a lot. And I think giving students, any kind of learner, the option to choose a little bit how they want to do this topic is a great idea. We also discussed retention, bridge to ICAPS, and testing and registration, topics that are big topics in adult education.
Well, you can do any topic, right, Kathy?
You can, yep. These are just the way it could be fractions. And you have to, maybe you keep a piece of paper on the table and they show how they learned fractions. So yeah, it could be any topic, any subject.
The next game we introduced, now that speed dating had warmed up the room, both in person and virtually, was called headbands, or other people call it heads up. It's always a fun party game, a great way to get people talking. But you can also implement this as a vocabulary lesson or as flashcards in your classroom. So in person, we broke everybody into groups of 4 or 5. And then we had maybe 5 groups throughout the room. Each group was given a set of cards with the topic. So this topic was college for one group. And the way you play this in person, you're going to hold this up. Now, I can't see what this says, and my teammates are going to try and give me clues without saying the word, so that I might guess. So, Kathy, can you give me some clues?
Okay, so this is, you ask your college for this. It lists all the classes that you took.
Transcript.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So then I would move on to the next word, and my crew, my team would describe this. Now, how this works remotely, it's a little bit on the honor system. You're going to have breakout rooms, and what you're going to put the word in the chat. Now, the person guessing should not look, close their eyes, again, honor system. And we could probably figure out better ways. We'd love your feedback if you could find another way that we can make this work remotely. But in the meantime, everybody that's in the breakout room would be shouting out the clues to, for instance, this is frat house, and they might say, alpha, beta, gamma, big party place, maybe even clues about movies. And so this really got the room laughing, and it was a great time. And so what I would also recommend, these could be great guides when you're studying, right? So you can use this a lot of ways as an icebreaker. You can use this as study aids. You can do flashcards. It could be any topic, but it's a wonderful way to get people talking and using conversation and collaborating. So that's headbands.
And one of the things that I loved about this game, Michelle, was that it really showed people's personalities. We had one group that was very quiet in their shouting, others that were shouting like crazy and moving their cards as fast as they could. So you really saw personalities come out with this game.
We actually even were told to shh. So here were the topics that we used. And you can use any topic when you're designing this. I mean, this says pandemic, but it could say phlebotomy, and then there's keywords for a quiz that's coming up in phlebotomy that they need to know. So we had pandemic, college, the office or classroom, hot careers. This was a fun one. This one was good. Famous places, Disney movies or characters, because I'm a huge Disney buff.
And this would be a great way, a great part to bring in things that you know about your students or learners, maybe even internal jokes you've had throughout this semester.
This next game, and this was a favorite for both remote learners and for participants in person. It's called the stall wall. So imagine back in the day when you were going into the public restrooms, people used to write with Sharpie on the wall. For a good time, attend the Forum for Excellence, although they wouldn't say that. Or Jenny, remember 86753? You'll be singing it all day, thanks to us. So you would go to the stall wall to get information. But this is how we did our version of the stall wall. We had an individual sheet of paper, and you're going to ask your participants, whether they're remote or in person, to write down any question that they have. It could be work related, it could be life related, it could just be for a hobby. So for instance, where can I get the best pizza in, let's say you're in Bloomington for a conference? Or it could be, do you know anybody who's hiring for a transition specialist? I'm not looking for work, I promise. But it could be that way. And then if this was remote, you could put the question in the chat and then, or excuse me, a Google Doc, and people can add to it. So what you do is, my question would be, do you know anybody who's hiring for a transition specialist? I would pass my paper to the right in person. That person would write an answer and then continue to pass it. When you get your paper back, you will have, let's say there's 20 people in the room, you'll have 20 answers to your question. And so it's a great way to show networking. And to do this remotely, you can do that on a Google Doc where everybody can add to it. And then you can email that out to the participants so that they can see what everybody else was recommending.
And
Yes.
I was going to say, I really enjoyed in the session because the online players kind of went a little AWOL with the instructions, and they just chose the questions that they liked. They started with those first and then went to the other questions. So it gave them a little bit of flexibility. Instead of having to do the one next, they chose it, and then they could write the answer and then go to another one.
Well, and it's the fun thing about these games. Make them work for you. Just like we said in a previous slide, there is no wrong or right way to do it. Have fun with it. And this is a great way to keep your students, your learners, whether they're in person or virtual, keeping them engaged.
And they might come up with a way to play the game you had never thought about. And you're like, oh, I'm going to use that from now on. And our final game, these are all games that you've probably played at different times in your life, but it's just taking that game and making it work for your environment. So this is Pictionary, and you could take the cards that you've used for the other games that we've presented and have students choose a card and then draw a picture, and everyone has to guess what it is. Or we used this one to have our participants choose one word that reflected what they were going to take from our session. So maybe it was on collaboration or laughter, vocabulary, and then they would draw the picture and their teammates would have to guess what the picture was. And we had a lot of fun with this one. And what I like about this is a lot of times when I walk around the classroom, I see students drawing. And it's a way that they have found to kind of relax themselves, reduce some anxiety while they're still listening. But here you can put it into practical use of let's show what you've learned, or let's reflect on the lesson that we just did.
Kathy, how would you do this as for remote students?
So for remote, most web conferencing platforms such as Zoom, I think Teams now has a whiteboard. So you would take that whiteboard and the student, make sure students can have remote access to it. And then they would draw the picture, and just like in person, the other learners would be guessing what the picture is.
So I loved this game. We had a volunteer come up and she drew a hand with a ring on it. And we couldn't figure it out. We're like, marriage, wedding. The word was engagement, engagement. And that was something that was her takeaway, that games can increase engagement. And what a great way to do that with the ring.
All right. And if you should have any questions, here's our email address. So I'm Kathy Kramer, and then Michelle Lyman.
And please, we really would appreciate your feedback, any ideas, any takeaways, so that we can also incorporate those into our offices, into our work environment, into our classrooms. We can share this as best practices with our instructors. And we want to thank you for sharing time with us this morning. Again, thank you for attending the Forum for Excellence, whether it's in person or virtually. Please make sure that you give feedback for the session. The app has closed, but certainly you can email anybody at ICCB or SIPDC or even Kathy or myself with that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.